So what the heck was Darth Sidious's plan in Attack of the Clones? It's a well-known and very misunderstood part of Star Wars lore, kind of like Luke's plan from Return of the Jedi, where there's a lot going on and a lot of weird things that people aren't exactly sure about why they're there or why the characters are doing that, but it makes sense, or at least mostly makes sense, when you look at it in pieces. But on a first viewing, it's very strange to most people, which is part of what makes Star Wars fun, right? You get to look at it, you get to think about it, it's a little weird, but it's kind of cool, and then in the end you realize, oh yeah, it mostly makes sense, and then you get a deeper appreciation for it. But first, before diving into what's actually going on in those scenes, we need to look at the big picture and the quick overview to find out why so many people think it's so weird and why it makes no sense, at least at a first look. So for the overview, from the audience's perspective, this is what's going on. Darth Sidious wants Count Dooku to make the Separatists. Count Dooku wants Nute Gunray in the Separatists. Nute Gunray wants Padme dead, so Nute Gunray hires Count Dooku to assassinate Padme. Then Dooku hires Jango Fett to assassinate Padme. And then Jango Fett hires Zam to assassinate Padme. And then Zam sends a robot to assassinate Padme. And that robot doesn't even do it itself, the robot sends in little bugs to assassinate Padme. It's honestly shocking that the bugs didn't have the good sense to hire anyone to do it for them, but I guess that just shows those bugs weren't the smartest characters in the movie. Better luck to them next time, but we saw how that ended up for them. Star Wars outsourcing to the maximum. So how did we end up with such a long, windy chain of events and people hiring other people just to do this one mission? Are the villains incompetent, or does it make sense when you look into it? The best way to think about it is of course to look at it from the individual perspectives of each character involved. When you look at it from the big picture, it's kind of a mess. But zooming into each individual character, you know, maybe they have a good point, or maybe it's still a mess. We'll find out. So the first character is Darth Sidious. Of course, he has his plan to make the CIS and start his war and take over the galaxy, and as we all know, it's a very good plan. It works right away. Nice job, Sidious. So he gets Count Dooku, a good move. Dooku's a good person, or at least a good villain. And he has Dooku manage all of the parts of setting up the CIS. That makes sense because obviously it's good for Sidious to kind of outsource that job to his apprentice while he's busy running the Republic, and also he wants Nute Gunray in it, and Nute Gunray didn't have the best relationship with him after being used as a pawn in The Phantom Menace. So does Sidious taking on Dooku as an apprentice and letting him manage the day-to-day of the CIS make sense? Of course. And then Dooku of course tries to get Nute Gunray because he wants battle droids, makes sense. And Nute Gunray wants to get Dooku to kill Padme as revenge for the first movie. That also makes sense. Now here's where things get weird. Next, Dooku hires Jango Fett to go assassinate Padme for him. And you might be thinking, why wouldn't Dooku just do it himself? He's strong enough, he could sneak in, murder Padme, whatever he needs to do. Why does he bother hiring this random bounty hunter? Although when you consider the rest of the movie, it does actually make some sense, considering that Dooku and Jango clearly have a strong relationship based on their experience with setting up the clone army and Jango going to Dooku at the end on Geonosis. And hey, Dooku even knows young Boba Fett, so they have some sort of relationship going on there. And of course, Dooku would want to keep a low profile. He doesn't want to do dirty work himself, so it makes sense for him to hire out a bounty hunter, especially one that he has a relationship with already and one that he trusts. So far, everything's good. But here we come to one of the weirdest parts of this. Why does Jango Fett hire Zam? Why does a bounty hunter hire another bounty hunter? And it's especially weird when you consider that Jango Fett does go to Coruscant on his own. He does watch it, and he is with Zam. He gives her the supplies that she needs. He tells her the mission, and then at the end he's there watching her and takes her out at the end. If he's so stealthy and he's good at assassinating people and he's such a good bounty hunter and he's already on the planet, why wouldn't he just take out Padme himself? And you might even think that they really messed up their plan when Zam distracts the Jedi, and then instead of taking out Padme himself, Jango goes to take out Zam. It's a weird situation overall, but I have a few theories. The first is simply that based on Jango's clear ability, it kind of makes sense for him to want to give away the easier jobs to the underlings who work for him rather than just doing it himself. You can imagine if there's a job that he considers to be pretty easy, then he'll just send Zam to do it, kind of monitor, maybe help, get her set up, and then take off part of the profits. That way he has to do less work, he doesn't have to do everything on his own, less chance of exposure, more practice for Zam, he still gets money. It's almost like a training situation. And so, what does he do? He makes the plan with poisonous bugs as a subtle way to take out Padme. Something easy, something foolproof, something he thinks won't be traceable. He hands them to Zam and he just says, "Here's my easy plan, this is an easy mission, you should be able to handle it, go have fun." In the meantime, you can imagine he's off on Coruscant doing other important missions that are more difficult, more hands-on, or more dangerous than chasing Padme. Something he thinks Zam should easily be able to do on her own, especially with the plan he's already pre-made for her. From the point of view of our main characters, and the Jedi, and Count Dooku and Darth Sidious, this is obviously a very important, high-priority target. But when you think about it from Jango's perspective, it's some senator, not even having good security. He probably has bigger, more dangerous fish to fry in the underworld. So when we consider Jango's perspective, does it make perfect sense for him to send Zam off with the bugs and the instructions on how to do it for him? Not entirely, but it's mostly understandable when you consider it as just a way to ease his workload almost. Which brings us to Zam. Obviously, she doesn't want to just shoot Padme on her own or something like that if she doesn't have to. Jango specifically tells her not to, says it will be basically an easy stealth mission, gives her the tools to do it, and she's going to use those tools. It seems like this is something they do all the time, Zam being the lesser bounty hunter, Jango getting the big catches, and then taking part of the profits after he sets her up for success on the smaller missions. So it makes sense for both of their characters for them to do something like this. I'm sure Count Dooku and Darth Sidious and Newt Gunray would much rather that Jango Fett does it on his own personally, but from a business perspective, the man has smarts. So there we have Zam, about to go on this important stealth mission. She has the bugs, she's ready to send them to Padme, and how can she send them to Padme? There's no way she's going to go herself and sneak in, because even though she's a changeling and she probably could try it, it's just hard to do. Especially when she has such a high-tech, awesome spy robot that can just silently, easily cut a hole in the window and slip them in, no problem. So that explains Zam, and that explains her robot. And it explains the bugs too. So we have Count Dooku getting Jango Fett, getting Zam, getting her robot to send in the bugs. And then the bugs try to kill Padme, but they fail, because they're sensed by the Jedi, who Jango might not have been expecting. But then the plot thickens, because once the Jedi find out about the bugs, Obi-Wan jumps out the window and catches the droid. Something that definitely was not in their original plan, for the Jedi, or definitely for the bounty hunters. And with the bug plan failing because they're so slow that the Jedi can sense them and stop them in time, you might wonder why didn't the droid just shoot Padme when it had the chance? And that's because Jango Fett told Zam to use the bugs. If there were no Jedi, then the bugs would be better because they're more secretive, more silent, less traceable, all of that. And when the Jedi suddenly enter the equation, in a way that no one involved expected, then the robot just reacts in the way that it's trained to, or programmed to. It returns to Zam. That's its job. She can fly it around, but then from there the chase begins, with Obi-Wan and Anakin following Zam until they finally manage to corner her, chop off her arm, get her in an alley, and start to interrogate her. By this point, you can imagine so much time has passed without contact from Zam that Jango starts to get worried and goes looking for her. He probably finds her with some sort of hidden tracking device, or just knowing where she would be, or just some other method for finding her. And once he finds her, and he sees the situation she's in, he knows that she has no way to get out. And he knows that she has all the information about his employer, and he knows that she has all the information about him, which is what he really doesn't want to get out. So the option he's left with is to finish her off before she tells the Jedi the information about him. It's dark, but it does make sense and it does fit the characters. So at this point, most people are wondering why he would shoot her with such a special type of dart that traces directly back to the planet where he's living. It seems kind of silly, right? Jango has all these different weapons that we see throughout the movies, and the one that he takes Zam out with is the one MacGuffin that Obi-Wan can follow him to Kamino with. Well, one thing to keep in mind on this is that we know Jango has a close relationship with Count Dooku, and we know that Count Dooku is the one who erased Kamino from all the archives. So it's possible that Jango even knew this and didn't worry about it being traceable, even if that was a thought that crossed his mind. But I think an even more likely explanation is that he is really far away from Zam there, and he probably needed something super fast, super precise that he's very familiar with, and that's very reliable to take her out as fast as possible. So it makes sense that he would use the specialized type of dart that he has from the place that he's currently staying. It makes sense that the place he's been living with super advanced technology might make some sort of special darts that he could get, and that he uses for specialized circumstances like this. The fact that it traces Obi-Wan back to Kamino is basically just a side effect of Kamino having high technology that Jango uses, which is also why he's living there. So even though it might look like kind of a convoluted mess of a story at first when you look from the big picture after just one viewing, when you really consider all the different parts from all the different characters' perspectives, I think it actually makes quite a bit of sense, and it's actually a really great sequence. It has a lot of intrigue, a lot of interesting character backstories, a lot of tension and stealth and drama, and it's just a great sequence of scenes. So, the next time someone says that George Lucas doesn't make any sense with this plot, just remember that when you look into the details, if you take a close enough look at it, you can usually figure out what's going on, and it's usually deeper than you expected from the surface. With that said, this is Deep Dive, signing off.